For decades, we've stared into the silent star-filled darkness and asked the same question. Are we alone? It's a question that has echoed through the halls of science, the pages of fiction, and the quiet moments of our own curiosity. We've sent robots to the rusty plains of Mars, pointed our most powerful telescopes at distant galaxies, and listened for a signal in the cosmic static. The search was always built on one simple assumption, that the answer was out there, light years away. But what if we've been looking in the wrong direction? What if the answer isn't millions of light years away, but right here, right now, just entering our cosmic backyard? In 2025, the whole conversation changed. A series of events, a chain of evidence, forced NASA to confront a possibility so startling it has rewritten our place in the universe. The famously cautious evidence-first agency had to make an admission that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. They've admitted the answer to that age-old question might not be in the distant stars, but that it may already be here. It all started not with a bang, but with two events that seem to have nothing to do with each other, separated by millions of miles. The first was the impossible image of a new world we were never supposed to see. The second was the arrival of a bizarre visitor from interstellar space, a comet named 3I Atlas that seemed to defy every law of celestial mechanics. On their own, each was a historic discovery. Together, they form a breadcrumb trail, a cosmic puzzle that, once you put the pieces together, points to a terrifying and exhilarating possibility. This is the story of how a tech breakthrough and a cosmic anomaly forced NASA to admit we may not be alone, and that our first encounter with alien life might be closer than any of us ever imagined. To really get the magnitude of what happened in 2025, we have to go back to a huge challenge in astronomy: seeing the unseeable. For all our smarts, directly photographing an Earth-like planet around its star is one of the hardest things in science. Think about trying to spot a firefly next to a searchlight from miles away. The star's glare is 1 billion times brighter than the pale dot of its planet. For decades, we found these worlds with indirect methods, like watching a star dim as a planet passes in front of it. We knew they were there, but we couldn't actually see them. And that's where NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope comes in. Set to launch by 2027, Roman carries a secret weapon, a piece of tech so advanced it sounds like sci-fi, the coronagraph instrument. A coronagraph is basically a super sophisticated system of masks and mirrors designed to do one thing: block a star's overwhelming light. But Roman's is special. It's an active system with 2 deformable mirrors backed by thousands of tiny pistons. These mirrors change their shape in real time with microscopic precision, canceling out stray starlight and creating a perfect artificial eclipse. Engineers call it digging the dark hole, and it's designed to be 100 to 1,000 times better than any space coronagraph before it. The goal was to prove this tech could be used by a future mission, the Habitable Worlds Observatory, to find and image planets like Earth and check their atmospheres for chemical fingerprints of life, what we call biosignatures. Gases like oxygen and methane, if you find them together, could be a huge sign of life at work. For years, the coronagraph was just a promise, a tech demo waiting for the right target. That target showed up in early December of 2025. A team of astronomers announced the discovery of CHIP 71618b. It wasn't a planet, but a brown dwarf, a failed star bigger than a planet but not big enough to start nuclear fusion. Interesting, but not world-shattering. What mattered was its position. The separation between it and its bright parent star was in the absolute sweet spot for the Roman coronagraph to test its limits. Suddenly, NASA had its perfect real-world testbed. If the coronagraph could image the faint brown dwarf next to its brilliant star, it would prove NASA had the tools to one day find a true alien Earth. The scientific community was buzzing. This was the first breadcrumb on the trail, proof that humanity was finally on the verge of seeing other worlds. But while astronomers were celebrating, something far stranger was unfolding in the darkness of our own solar system. Our solar system isn't an island. As it moves through the galaxy, things from interstellar space pass through. We first woke up to this in 2017 with 1I Oumuamua, a weird, cigar-shaped object that tumbled through our system on a path that confirmed it came from another star. Its strange shape and the way it accelerated away from the sun without a comet's tail led some, like Harvard astrophysicist Dr. Avi Loeb, to suggest it could be an alien artifact. Then, in 2019, 2I Borisov arrived, and it looked and acted much more like a normal comet, which calmed everyone down. For a few years, the cosmic highway seemed quiet, until July 1st, 2025. That day, the Atlas Project, a robotic survey, flagged a new object. It was designated 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object. But right from the start, it was clear 3I Atlas was different. The first data was mind-boggling. This wasn't a small rock like Oumuamua. Its estimated diameter was a massive 20 kilometers, more than twice the size of the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. It was a monster, bigger than Manhattan, hurtling through our solar system at 245,000 kilometers per hour. An object this big, from interstellar space, was a historic scientific event. It was a time capsule from another star system. Every major observatory on Earth and in space was immediately pointed at it. At first, it looked like a comet. It had a fuzzy coma and a faint tail, but even then, there were whispers that something was off. Its brightness flickered in ways that didn't quite match the models for an icy body. And its path, it was weird. It wasn't just passing through. Its trajectory seemed to bring it unusually close to the orbital plane of our planets. At the time, these were just curiosities. In one corner of the cosmos, a new technology was getting ready to take the first real picture of another world. In another, a giant, mysterious visitor had just crossed our threshold. No one knew these two stories were about to collide. Through the late summer and fall of 2025, astronomers were living a double life. By day, they were excited about the Roman coronagraph's upcoming test on HIP 71610b. That was planned, methodical science. But by night, all eyes were on the intruder, 3I Atlas. This was reactive science, a mad scramble to understand something that was just dropped in our laps. The timeline here is key. 3I Atlas was found in July. By September, its huge size and interstellar origin were confirmed. All through October, as it got deeper into our solar system, its behavior grew more erratic. Meanwhile, the Roman teams were getting ready for their December observations. On the surface, these were two totally separate projects. But in science, what looks like a coincidence is often a pattern you haven't spotted yet, and the patterns around 3I Atlas were getting hard to ignore. Dr. Avi Loeb, whose Galileo project was set up to find alien tech, was one of the first to sound the alarm. He pointed out that the object's trajectory was highly unusual and argued that explaining it as a purely natural event was getting tougher. His critics, and he had plenty, pointed to his earlier controversial claims about Oumuamua and said he was jumping to conclusions. But the evidence for the object's strangeness kept piling up. Spectrographic analysis, breaking down its light to see what it's made of, gave confusing results. It had water ice, sure, but in ratios that were hard to explain. Even more unnerving, multiple observatories reported weird flashes, brief bursts of light from its core that didn't match any known process for a comet breaking up or venting gas. This is when the mood started to shift. The excitement about studying an interstellar comet was replaced by a growing unease. The thing was too big, too fast, and too weird, and it was getting closer. The question wasn't just, what is it? But why is it behaving like that? The investigation wasn't just astronomy anymore. It was becoming a planetary security issue. The second breadcrumb wasn't a discovery, but a question mark, a giant 20-kilometer-wide question mark speeding toward the inner solar system. Science is built on rules. Comets are expected to follow them. They're basically dirty snowballs. As they get close to the sun, ice turns to gas, creating the coma and tail. This outgassing gives a gentle push, known as non-gravitational acceleration, which is a well-understood phenomenon. 3I Atlas didn't follow the rules. In late October 2025, the first major red flag went up. A team tracking the comet noticed a tiny but significant course correction. It was a nudge, but it wasn't consistent with the models of cometary outgassing. The push was too clean, too precise. Natural outgassing is messy, like geysers erupting. This was controlled. Then came the second red flag, and it was much more obvious. In November, high-resolution images caught what some started calling headlights, not literal beams of light, but two distinct symmetrical points of brightness that started glowing in the comet's coma near the nucleus. They would flare up, hold steady, and then dim. This wasn't a fracturing nucleus. It wasn't outgassing jets. It was symmetrical, it was regulated, and there was no natural explanation for it. This is the moment the story went mainstream. Dr. Loeb, feeling vindicated, argued that the object was acting like an advanced probe or mothership using targeted thrusters. He suggested the headlights could be energy emissions, maybe from a deceleration burn. The scientific establishment pushed back, proposing complex theories about dust dynamics or a splitting nucleus. But none of their models could explain both the precise course correction and the symmetrical glow. The most damning evidence came from comparing 3I Atlas to itself. As the comet got closer to the sun, the outgassing should have gone wild. Instead, the opposite happened. The coma actually seemed to shrink a bit, even as the headlights got more pronounced. It was as if the object was conserving its resources, using controlled propulsion instead of just melting. It was behaving less like a snowball and more like a ship. The phrase non-natural behavior started showing up in internal communications. The red flags weren't just curiosities anymore. They were a siren. 3I Atlas wasn't just a comet, it was something else. And the question was no longer if it was artificial, but what did it want? We are living in a moment where humanity's oldest question is being met with real data. The story of 3I Atlas and the breakthrough in seeing exoplanets challenges everything we thought we knew. These are the mysteries that define our time. If you find these explorations as vital and fascinating as we do, subscribe to our channel. Join the community of curious minds who aren't afraid to ask the big questions and follow the evidence wherever it leads. By mid-November 2025, the pressure was on. The strange data from 3I Atlas was too much to ignore, and public speculation was boiling over. Behind the scenes at NASA, a fierce debate was raging. Admitting the possibility of an artificial object was a step you couldn't take back. It risked global panic, but to keep insisting it was a natural comet was becoming scientifically dishonest. On November 28, 2025, NASA called an unscheduled press conference. The world watched as a panel of top scientists, including Dr. Nikki Fox, the Associate Administrator for the Science Mission Directorate, sat before the cameras. She didn't say aliens, she didn't say spacecraft, but what she did say was just as earth-shattering. She summarized the known facts: the interstellar origin, the huge size, the weird path. Then, she addressed the anomalies. She acknowledged the course corrections that were inconsistent with our current models. She confirmed the symmetrical localized brightening events that had no clear natural explanation. Then came the money line. Given the persistent and accumulating observational data, Dr. Fox said, NASA is now operating under the working hypothesis that 3I Atlas may not be an object of entirely natural origin. We are prioritizing the investigation of this object as one of potential technological and artificial make. The language was careful, but the meaning was clear. For the first time ever, NASA admitted they were investigating an object in our solar system as potential alien technology. Amit Kshatriya, the head of the Moon to Mars program, was also on the panel, a signal that this was now a matter of planetary significance. He spoke of enhanced monitoring and contingency planning, words usually reserved for asteroid impact threats. The admission wasn't that aliens are here. It was that the evidence was now too strong to ignore. The most logical explanation, however extraordinary, was that 3I Atlas wasn't a dead rock, but a machine. The world had crossed a threshold. NASA's admission changed everything. The 3I Atlas anomaly was now the official subject of a global investigation. But the big question remained: if it's artificial, why is it here? Why travel across the void to our particular star system? The first guess was that it was here for Earth, but another, more logical and chilling idea started to emerge, one that connected the visitor to the other big astronomy news of 2025. Let's go back to HEP 71618b. In early December, just weeks after NASA's press conference, the Roman Space Telescope's coronagraph was finally aimed at the star system. The test was a massive success. The instrument worked perfectly, blocking the starlight and revealing the faint glow of the brown dwarf. It was a huge achievement, proving we now had the technology to directly image other worlds. And that's when the two stories crashed together. A small, independent team ran a new simulation. They asked a different question. What if 3i Atlas wasn't interested in Earth at all? What if its mission was to survey star systems with a high probability of harboring life? They plugged in the new data from the Roman coronagraph, the proof that our solar system was now home to technology that could see exoplanets. Then they replotted the trajectory of 3i Atlas. The results were electrifying. The comet's strange course corrections weren't random. They seemed to be positioning it for a gravity assist maneuver, not using our sun, but using Jupiter to slightly change its path. The terrifying implication: 3i Atlas wasn't a visitor, it was a scout. And maybe it wasn't here because it detected us, our radio signals, or our atmosphere. What if it was here because it detected our technology? What if the very act of building the tech to see their worlds, signaled by the Roman coronagraph, was the trigger that made it show itself? This hypothesis suggests the object could be part of a vast ancient network of probes lying dormant in space, programmed to investigate any civilization that hits a certain technological level, the level of becoming cosmic observers ourselves. Our first picture of another world may have been the very thing that made us visible to them. The timing of its arrival and its strange maneuvers, happening just as humanity was validating its own planet-finding tech, was the final, devastating piece of the puzzle. It suggests we haven't just found an alien object. We may have tripped a cosmic alarm. We started with two separate stories: the triumph of a new technology to see other worlds and the arrival of a mysterious messenger from the stars. We followed the breadcrumbs. It started with an impossible photograph, proving we could finally see across the gulf of space. The trail continued with 3i Atlas, an object of impossible size and power, with its bizarre course corrections and headlights that defied physics. This led to NASA's historic admission that they were investigating a potentially artificial object. And finally, the trail ends with a chilling synthesis, the idea that these events aren't separate but are causally connected, that the arrival of this object is a direct consequence of our own technological growth. So now we stand before a new reality, with more questions than answers. Is 3i Atlas a benign probe from a curious civilization, or is it something more? NASA's admission wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new chapter in human history, one where we have to look at the sky not just with wonder, but with a new sense of caution. For the first time, we have to seriously confront the possibility that we are not alone in a very real, tangible way. The evidence isn't just a sci-fi plot anymore. It's here. It's in the data. It's an object 20 kilometers wide right now, hurtling through our solar system. The alien is in the room. And the most profound question humanity has ever asked has changed. It's no longer, are we alone? It is, what happens next?